Senator Elizabeth Warren was on The View and she received some hard-hitting questions from Meghan McCain on the issue of Iran. Let's take a quick look.
The Treasury Department and the State Department have both designated the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. I don't understand the flip-flop. I don't understand why it was so hard to call him a terrorist, and I would just like you to explain.
This isn't a change. They're true. The question is, what is the response that the President of the United States should make, and what advances the interests of the United States of America? Think about Saddam Hussein. You want to talk about a bad guy, right? However, going to war in Iraq was not in the interests of the United States. We lost thousands of American lives. It cost us here at home. It has cost us around the world. It has been a part of this cost in the Middle East that has ended up with millions of people who've lost their lives, who've been injured, who've been displaced. The question for the President of the United States is to understand what's going on, have an overall strategy, and pick an appropriate response. And going back to Kobe's question, at an appropriate time.
So one thing that I want everyone to pay close attention to, and we have more clips, is how McCain has no interest in anything that Warren has to say. What she is interested in is labels, right? And so all she cares about is that Warren refers to Soleimani as a terrorist. Now look, the reason why she's goading Warren into it, and unfortunately Warren did get goaded into it before this entire conversation via Twitter, where she prefaced her tweet condemning Donald Trump's actions by going through a laundry list of how bad Soleimani is, right? Don't give in to their framing, because once you do that, you're helping them spread the propaganda that tries to justify what Trump did. And that's what you're gonna see in this next video.
Yeah, one quick comment before we go to that. Look, so far, Elizabeth Warren answers perfectly intelligent. But McCain doesn't want intelligence.
Right.
She wants catchphrases. You should reject the framing. So after you watch this, I'll tell you what I would have done instead. So let's watch.
He's a terrorist.
He's part of a group that has been designated. He is part of a group that's been designated.
He's not a terrorist.
Of course he is. He's part of a group that our federal government has designated as a terrorist. The question, though, is what's the right response?
Are we terrorists? Can we acknowledge what we do abroad for a second? How we bomb people at weddings, how we do drone strikes at people who respond to the initial drone strike. Like, is that terrorist activity? Because look, the problem with the framing, Soleimani was a bad guy. There's no question about it. There's no denying that, right? But when you make a comment like that out of context, it leaves out the full story of how we got to this mess in the first place. And that's why it's a problem. It completely releases the United States of any responsibility. And that's the reason why we keep going into these endless wars. Because people don't learn from history. They don't learn about how our actions led to where we are today.
So I would have responded, the world is complicated and filled with nuance. So I'm gonna talk slow so you understand this, Meghan. So Saddam Hussein was a terrible guy, but he actually hated Al-Qaeda, who had attacked us on 9/11. Your dad didn't understand that nuance, so he had us attack the wrong country. And that cost us dearly. It got 4,500 of our troops killed, tens of thousands injured. It got hundreds of thousands of civilians killed. It was a terrible idea that your dad and George Bush instigated. Now, by doing these silly labels like, oh, he's a terrorist, you are implying that we should take action against Iran. Action would be war, which by the way, your dad wanted. He said bomb, bomb, bomb Iran. Your dad was also wrong and stupid about that. And so we're not going to do that just because you throw out the catchphrase of terrorist. So no, the answer is no, I don't want to bomb Iran. I don't want to start another stupid war like the one your dad started. And then watch your head explode. And you know what will happen? People will talk about that and they'll say, wait, is it true that her dad was an idiot that helped to start the Iraq war? That is true. Would it also be the same in this case? That is true. Be strong. You don't have to back down from the likes of Meghan McCain. So look,
we have a breaking news story that's relevant to what we're talking about right now. Iran just struck a second US airbase in response to what Trump did, in assassinating Soleimani. There are consequences. I mean, look, Meghan McCain talks about the importance of respecting American troops. You know what respecting American troops is? Not putting them in harm's way. How many of them have to die, and how many of them need to come back to the United States with PTSD and irreparable harm, physical harm to their bodies, for you to understand that we need to be smart and measured in the way that we approach these foreign policy issues. Meghan McCain didn't even want to get briefed by a producer about drone strikes when she was on that Take Part Live show. She had no interest in it, no intellectual curiosity about it, does not care. Your shallow arguments about how you want to respect the troops mean nothing when her commentary, her ignorant, stupid commentary on these shows pushes our troops in harm's way over and over again.
Well, what is the point?
Disgusting.
What's the point of putting 3,000 new troops into Iraq? There is no point at all, other than to have them get killed. They're not going to invade Iran. And they're not going to defend Iraq. Iraq doesn't want them there. Iraq is saying leave. They just voted on it. They're saying you have to leave right now. We don't want you here. Other than the Iranian you killed a military leader connected to our government, and you killed our civilians. We want you to leave. If you send 300,000 troops, it's a terrible idea, but at least it has a point. Okay, you're going to invade Iran. I hate that idea, but there is some logical consistency to it. Sending 3,000 troops, the only point is to have them get killed. But Meghan McCain goes, oh yeah? I just called a Muslim a terrorist, so I win. No, you don't. You're a moron, and no one gets the troops in more trouble, their lives more in danger than conservatives like Meghan McCain, John McCain, George Bush, Donald Trump.
I can't believe the New York Times refers to this show as the most important political show in the country, when one of the hosts literally has no interest in educating herself on any of the issues that she talks about, especially foreign policy, something she pretends to care about. One final video from this exchange.
Universal pre-K, $800 billion into our public schools. Make it a real commitment.
Can we just switch
Universal
gears?
college, $50 billion for historically black colleges and universities, and cancel student loan debt for 43
Well, I just got to you a break. When Trump just said that we spent $2 trillion on the military, I said I don't want anyone ever to ask Elizabeth Warren how she's going to pay for medical care.
All right, so in that was supposed to be a fun part where Elizabeth Warren's ignoring Meghan McCain because she's still trying to goad her to talk about how Iran is full of terrorists and yada yada, when Warren makes a good point there. We never question how much we spend on these endless wars. Those resources could be used to help the American people. That's our taxpayer money, keeps getting wasted to make defense contractors wealthy.
Look, I'm glad we showed that clip because I go strong in an over-the-top way, but there's different ways to be strong. And that comment by Warren was also strong. And Sonny is also right. Look, we have the money for endless wars. We have the money for tax cuts for the rich. But when we say let's get healthcare for the American people, like Elizabeth Warren says and Bernie Sanders says, they say no way. So I'm glad that she had a very strong response to Meghan McCain's childlike, immature, irrelevant point. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.